4 years our neighbors kept driving their cars across our yard, until the day my father quietly changed the property boundary, and the very next morning, both their expensive cars and their pride were forced to face reality. That morning when our neighbors' 2 shiny cars were stuck inside the new boundary line and the color had drained from their faces, I was standing beside my father. My name is Colette Harper, I am 57 years old, and my palms were soaked with sweat as if I were standing outside a courtroom. Ryland Briggs was shouting, "This was done on purpose." My father, Vincent Harper, 81 years old, was standing straight. His voice was not loud. "This is my land. It always has been. If you are listening to this, pause for a moment. Like and subscribe only if this story touches an old wound inside you. Tell me in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is there. I truly read every comment. Now take me back 8 years to 3:17 that afternoon when their car first cut across our yard. We live in the Ravens Gate neighborhood of Asheville, North Carolina. Our house was built in 1976, 2,360 square feet, with a cedar fence out front that still carried the faint smell of old oil and sun-baked wood. I'm a forensic accountant. In my family that was always a punchline. She buries herself in numbers. What does she know about real life? The first time Ryland and his wife, Kendra, sliced their black SUV across our lawn, the tires crushed nearly 10 feet of grass. One fence panel collapsed 52 minutes later. My father walked outside. He didn't raise his voice. He just touched the splintered board. Ryland laughed. "Vince, you've got 0.7 acres. We're saving 15 seconds. 15 seconds. Over the next 94 months, those 15 seconds cost us 13 repairs, $5,120 in lumber, and countless mornings of humiliation." One morning at 6:08 I overheard Ryland say, "The old man will never fight back. That's what makes it easy." That sentence stayed with me. My father had spent 39 years as a civil engineer working on state highways. He understood boundaries better than anyone. But at home he stayed quiet. I would say, "Dad, you can stop them." He'd answer, "Everything has its time, Colette." In 2020 he requested the original county survey, a 1982 map, a 2004 update, the original deed stamped 2:41 p.m. The papers were spread across our dining table. His coffee had gone cold. "Colette," he said, "they're coming 4.1 feet onto our land." I ran the numbers automatically. 4.1 feet across 79 feet of frontage. That wasn't accidental. That was habit. That's when our neighbor Mrs. Corinne Blackwood, 79 years old, a retired property clerk, became our quiet champion. She opened her filing cabinet and handed us a 1971 boundary record. "I kept this for a reason," she said. Inside the file was also a 2018 email Ryland had sent to the county admitting he was temporarily crossing our yard. Temporary had stretched into 8 years. I was scared. My father's pension was $2,650 a month. My consulting business was only 16 months old. Legal battles weren't cheap. But Dad didn't talk about court. He talked about clarity. A few weeks later at 9:18 p.m., we heard the sound of shattering glass. Ryland's brand new 2024 SUV had cut the corner again and struck a steel survey marker my father had installed exactly according to county specifications, 40 inches deep in the ground. Completely legal. Ryland was furious. "You did this deliberately." Dad didn't flinch. I clarified my boundary. The next morning at 10:12, a county officer stood on our lawn measuring the line. The steel marker was precisely where the deed said it should be. Ryland's tire tracks were clearly inside. A week later the Briggs family hosted a neighborhood barbecue. String lights glowed. Smoke from the grill drifted over the fences. Ryland raised a beer and said loudly, "Some people can't keep up with changing times." A few people laughed. Then Corinne stood up. She held the file steady in her thin hands and read aloud, "Original boundary, 79 feet from the northern corner. Any vehicle crossing 4.1 feet inward constitutes trespassing." The yard went quiet. I pulled out the repair receipts. This $5,120 represents damage done on our property. The county officer who had agreed to attend after reviewing the documents, spoke calmly. "Mr. Briggs, your vehicle was inside their boundary. And this is your email acknowledging you were crossing temporarily." Kendra's face drained of color. The same neighbors who once chuckled at 15 seconds, avoided eye contact now. My father finally spoke. I never insulted you. I simply reclaimed what was mine. The resolution wasn't dramatic. It was precise. The Briggs family had to redesign their driveway at a cost of $19,300. They reimbursed us the $5,120. And they installed their own retaining wall to prevent further shortcuts. The path through our yard closed for good. Months later we replaced the old cedar fence. Fresh wood, sharp and clean in the air. I expanded my consulting firm, clients now in 12 states. I framed the original deed and hung it in my office as a reminder that paper, properly understood, carries power. One evening at 7:09, I watched my father plant a red oak sapling, 3.5 feet tall, along the new boundary. The soil was cool and dark against his hands. He said, "Setting limits isn't fighting. It's simply saying, this is where it stops." That oak is now 8 feet tall. Strong. Steady. Its roots gripping the ground it belongs to. And every time I walk past it I remember something important. Quiet people aren't weak. Engineers understand load limits. Accountants understand numbers. And sometimes the strongest move isn't yelling. It's drawing a line exactly where it should have been all along. Thank you for staying with me until the end. If this story meant something to you, like and subscribe. Turn on notifications so you don't miss another one. And tell me in the comments, have you ever had to set a boundary others didn't respect? I read every comment. Until next time, take care of yourself. You deserve that.